moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning. Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome to the Tobago Updates Morning Show, coming to you here live from the Port Wall in Scarborough. It is 7 a.m. 7 a.m. on this beautiful Tuesday morning, Tuesday the 17th of January 2022. As we continue to give God thanks for life, I am Julian Skeet.
And I am Rhea Richardson George, and this is the day that the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. Good morning to Tobago, good morning Trinidad, those of you viewing us in the Caribbean, and those of you on the live, good morning, good morning. Julian, good morning to you. It's Tuesday. I love the colors.
Yes, good morning, good morning. Thank you so much, Rhea. This morning, a courtesy checkpoint, and that's checkpoint located on Upper Main Street there. Yes, we got to get a close-up with checkpoint. Yes, located on Upper Main Street in Scarborough. That's 639-5148. Remember to connect with them. Checkpoint. And in fact, Rhea, yesterday I had the opportunity to meet one of Mariska's family members. Yes, as I visited checkpoint to collect and so on, she was in store at the moment, and I said, you need to give me your name so that I can ensure that I'm able to do a shout out this morning. And this morning I want to make sure, and I'm doing my quick searches to ensure that I located to shout out.
Yeah, that's right.
Roxanne Hailing. And she views the show, one of our supporters out there. She's tuned in. In fact, I was busy saying thank you, Roxanne, for continuing to support us, the Tobago Updates Morning Show. And she said, have no fear, I tune in all the time, Mariska's family.
That's right.
All right, so we want to wish you all the very best and to thank you so much, Roxanne Hailing, and to each and every one of you for continuing to choose the Tobago Updates Morning Show.
All right. As well, we want to mention here this morning that our live shot that we started the show with this morning is courtesy Socialize. I don't know if we can go back. Yes, that beautiful live shot of, that's what Lower Scarborough, Tobago. Yeah, that's out at the jetty. If I'm not mistaken, this is at the back of the Coast Guard base. Okay, we're correct.
Some would say in our local, that's where I usually get fish.
Yeah, there's usually a fishing vessel in there at the back there.
That's where I usually get my fish there in that area, fresh fish coming in. I'm certainly seeing the sights and spaces. And somebody told me recently when they saw me out, Mr. Skeet, that's you? I said, yes. They said Tobago Updates continue those. I love to see the different spaces and places in Tobago. So we're very happy that you are appreciative of what we bring to you in terms of a difference with our morning talk show. And really want to thank you once again. Rhea, at this point, we're preparing to head on over to news in 90 seconds.
Thank you so much, Julian and Rhea. And here is your news in 90 seconds for Tuesday, the 17th of January. 5.4 kilograms of marijuana was seized after a member of the K9 unit sensed it. According to police reports, officers conducted an exercise at the Scarborough port between 6 p.m. and 7:15 p.m. on Sunday with the K9 unit when the drug was detected. A white Mazda pickup truck was searched, and the marijuana was found concealed in the tailgate between the draw liner of the vehicle tray. Police arrested and charged driver 45-year-old Kevin Ayong from Bethesda, Plymouth. Ayong is an employee, a checker with the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development. Additionally, for hotels to house athletes for the Commonwealth Games, the Ministry of Sport and Community Development paid down a total of $3.5 million. The 7th Annual Commonwealth Youth Games will be held in Trinidad and Tobago from August the 4th to 11th. Both islands would be hosting the competition, and 5,000 rooms are required. And the ministry chose Magdalena Grand Beach and Golf Resort, Mount Irving Bay Resort, Comfort Inn Suites in Tobago, as well as Hyatt Regency Hotel and Radisson Cara Hotel in Trinidad to host the visitors. And finally, Minister of Health Terence Dialsing amended the Pharmacy Board regulations, allowing the extension for practicing certificates for pharmacies. In a statement, the ministry acknowledged the concerns expressed by the public over the failure of the Council of Pharmacy Boards of Trinidad and Tobago to issue practicing certificates for the period January 15, 2023 to January 14, 2024 to pharmacists who have duly paid their annual retention fees. As a result, the ministry took measures to ensure that there is no disruption in pharmaceutical services in either public or private health sectors. And that is your news in 90 seconds. Thank you. Back to you, Julian and Rita.
Thank you very much there,
Thank you so much,
for bringing us
Chanel.
the news this morning. You know, interesting developments. And not I would have been reading in and around and saw on social media, you know, as we make reference to sport, particularly what appears to be a very unfortunate circumstance with Usain Bolt
Yes.
regarding what appeared to be, and you know, this is one of the things he has certainly been strong about in terms of seeking to invest invest, you know, where he is having been able to make and to be quite successful from the sport, and Jamaica being responsible, and he's very much very much all Jamaican, having made investments and so on in the millions, and now being told on his
Millions and billions.
on his routine checks, you know, that there appears to be some discrepancies, a situation which would have been identified early enough, perhaps in last year. I think it could have been in and around August, but yet up to his relevant checks, and in fact up to quite recently, without him with his management team and investment team stepping into the matter, the person was actually still employed within the company and organization. Now, isn't this quite an interesting thing? Here it is, you are attempting to support local. Within the mix of it, you have an individual within the company, and more than that, the company knowing about it and then probably coming to the realization, oh, Bolt is also affected.
Yeah, not that it makes it any easier, but he is one among several persons. I was reading up on this story yesterday, and I thought it was heartbreaking because he would have retired. I think it was 2017, and I guess catered to relaxing and enjoying retirement and catering to his older, let me say, his golden years.
Yes.
And now what happens with all of this? All right.
It'll be very interesting to see where this goes in terms of further developments going forward. All right, viewers, at this point we head on over to our birthday celebrations today, Tuesday the 17th of January. Who do we get started with?
We're celebrating today Pamela Leslie. Happy birthday going out to you, Miss Leslie. I'm really trusting that you have a great one. Trust that the children shower you with all the love, children and grandchildren, because you know you're that blessed. I trust that they shower you today with all the love and blessings that today holds. Enjoy. And we've also got here Ethelyn Matthews. Ethelyn Matthews celebrating her birthday today. Lots of love going out to you, Ethelyn, from all of us here at Tobago Updates, but especially a very special one to you from Linnell Adams, Ethelyn, and my neighbor and good friend out there in Delafort, Tobago, Nikisha Melville, celebrating her birthday. Nikki, love going out to you. Have a great one from all of us here at Tobago Updates. Yeah, and we've got Patricia Thomas celebrating her birthday today. Pat Thomas, love going out to you from the Open Bible family. Trust that you have a great one. And we've got Camille Spencer, now Minister Camille Spencer, celebrating her birthday. Camille, lots of love going out to you from all of us here in Tobago. The Youth League, Youth Department, we love you. Have a great one today.
Yes, certainly sending those birthday shout-outs to each and everyone this morning. Once again, you know, to those of you continuing to connect with us, yes, this is your time to celebrate birthdays and anniversaries, but we've got no anniversaries today, Ria.
No anniversaries.
Only birthdays,
today.
only birthdays in the mix. All right, so we wish you a happy birthday. All right, at this point, we head on into our rundown this morning. And this morning, we actually get the conversation started with Terence Sandiford, chairman of NCBA Tobago region. February Carnival in jeopardy. We'll get a perspective from Terence Sandiford as we go forward.
All right, and we're going to be chatting with Candace. In fact, Candace is going to be chatting with Dwayne White this morning. But just before we continue on, let's head over to Candace to see what she's up to.
Well, Julian and Ria, yes, I have some very interesting items in my hand, but it has everything to do with Carnival. It has everything to do with, let me say, brightening up the place and bringing some heat in the place. So if you want to know more, tune in a little later on the program and you're going to find out what am I doing with these things. It's going to be interesting.
I want to see Candace with the fire. I want to see Candace with the fire. I've seen her in the water, but I haven't seen her with fire just yet.
Oh my Lord! We see her in the air, we see her in the water. Now we're going to see her with the fire.
Now we're gonna see Candace with fire. And who do we wrap with this morning, Ria?
All right, so we're going to be wrapping things this morning with members of the University of the San Diego International Studies, University of San Diego, International Studies Abroad, and Dr. Odesma Dalrymple is going to be joining us on set with Dr. Prieto, and it's all about understanding the dynamics of immigration. So they'll tell us more about that.
Excellent. So we certainly look forward to those discussions this morning. And today I also want to highlight and to shout out very quickly, and we're going to have to add those photos up on screen. Some of my young persons this weekend, Ria, had an opportunity, would have been across in Trinidad for the Rotary Youth Leadership Awards. And you know, that's one of the organizations that I'm heavily involved in.
Yes.
And these are some Tobago students that President Tracy Osman Ashton and myself, we would have taken across to participate in this two-day event, really representing the collective team. As you'd realize, this is the combination of all present, including our district governor, who is soon to be joining us in Tobago for his visit. Really an excellent opportunity to see young persons come back into that space where they interact and engage. And without doubt, really want to commend these young people standing out among all the schools present and the clubs represented, the Interact clubs, the Interact Club of Southwest Tobago, making us proud. So I want to say kudos and commendations to the entire group of interactors represented there, continue to be supported by the sponsor club, the Rotary Club of Southwest Tobago. So well done indeed.
All right, and just before we go, we want to recognize some of our other sponsors this morning. Here's Sanctuary, Phyllis Grant, we say good morning to you. Just My Size, Joyce Fashion, we say good morning to you. House of Norma, good morning, as we recognize some of our major sponsors. Mateo's, good morning, good morning, good morning.
All right, and I certainly can't forget at all. He's probably saying I need to check him. I'll be there, have no fear. Classic Cuts by Aquila, located in Susulands. And as well this morning at Checkpoint, responsible for my clothing and outfit and the fancy, what do you call this on the lapel area? I know.
You're on your own.
I said it's beautiful. It just adds a notch.
Corsage,
well, when I got dressed and I had it on, I got the seal, I got the approval.
From your daughter, no doubt.
The seal, I got that approval. Yes, certainly. So remember, folks, to Checkpoint, located at Upper Main Street in Scarborough, 639-5148. All right, very quickly connecting with our audience, our live viewers this morning. We see we have in the mix Julia Brown, June James Abraham, Auntie Dora. Morning to you.
Good morning, Auntie Dora.
Beard, Rodney Pigot, we want to wish you a good morning. Kyuki Melville, Winston Pereira, Yolanda Cordner, all right, Joshua Ali, Carol Fraser Davidson, Lisa James. We want to say good morning to each and every one of you connecting with us this morning. And if I continue with this list, folks, the director is not going to be happy at all. Ria, are you going to continue?
You're on your own, Julia. You're on your own. I see the director already shaking his head.
We certainly want to thank each and every one of you for continuing to support us. Christelle Washington, Tom, Mrs. Charles out there. We want to thank you so much for the continued love and support. Those of you joining us via TV, And to those of you listening in on the radio, and for those of you connecting with us online, this is your opportunity to share the live, share the live, share the live.
Socialize! Friday, 27th of January, Shore Park Complex.
Don't worry, lover. Don't worry, friend. Don't worry, partner. Socialize is here. Don't worry, lover. Don't worry, friend. Don't worry, partner. Tobago.
Socialize! Friday, 27th of January, Shore Park Complex.
It's so much man good day. Socialize.
Socialize!
Freedom at last. Raise a glass. Boy,
Socialize!
27th of January. Look for where.
MI4 Security Services Company is the most advanced security service in Tobago. Ask about our cash and transit service. It's safe, risk-free, reliable, and timely. We provide safe banking delivery for all business types and sizes with highly trained staff, 24/7 monitoring, coordinated emergency response, and a well-maintained fleet of armored vehicles. Contact us at 660-7723 or visit our website at www.mi4securitytt.com to sign up today.
It's a different type of thing down there. And we party till we drop down there. With a lot of pretty girls down there. Down in Tobago.
Tobago Glass Supplies has been a leading name for over 37 years in the glass and aluminum market in Tobago. We provide an extensive range of high-quality, innovative aluminum and glass products for commercial and residential use. Competitive prices with superior and professional services by committed employees who are guided by rigid quality standards. Tobago Glass Supplies specializes in the manufacture and installation of glass and aluminum products that are essential to today's homeowners and the business environment. We are engaged in marketing, sales, and installation of a variety of products. These ranges from windows and doors to necessities such as mirrors for homes and vehicles, designed and manufactured in-house or imported.
Everybody only worrying.
Never ever worry, don't mind how things looking hard. I tell them never ever worry, if your life can't get damaged bad. I tell them never ever worry, what I'm saying is true. So just consider, Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry, don't mind if life make you sad. I tell them never ever worry, if your house get flooded out real bad. I tell them never ever worry, what I'm saying is true. So just consider, Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry, if sickness catch you off guard. I tell them never ever worry, if times fall on you real hard. I tell them never ever worry, what I'm saying is true. So just consider, Tatil will always be here for you.
Never worry about a thing. Tatil, where people are people. You know what I mean.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning.
Viewers, welcome back this morning to the Tobago Updates morning show. And just before we get into our next interview, we just want to let you know that there's the official launch of the live stream Tobago the Tobago Festivals Commission.com, and on Facebook, Tobago Festivals is going to be carried live on Tobago Updates January 17th. From 10 a.m. All right, so we just want to remind you of that, and it's coming up. That's just for a whole month before the carnival takes place later on in February. All right, so we want to remind you, and we're going to continue to remind you that Tobago Updates is going to be carrying it live. Well, viewers, we are chatting this morning with Mr. Terence Sandiford, who is the chairman of the NCBA Tobago region, and this morning it's all about February Carnival in jeopardy. He's going to give us some more information. In fact, just before we bring him in, we just want to remind you, bring you up to speed with what's been happening. So just about a week ago, we chatted here on the program, on the Tobago Updates morning show, with Gemma Bedlow, who is the interim chairman of the Tobago Band Leaders Association, and she spoke on behalf of the band leaders within the Tobago space, making mention of the fact that they were not happy, Tobago's band leaders are not happy with the 1.3 million allocation for Tobago Mass, and they have been threatening to boycott the carnival this year. Now, Terence Sandiford is on the program, and he's going to chat with us. Does he agree or disagree? And he'll tell us more about that. Good morning and welcome to Mr. Sandiford.
Thank you, Ria. Thank you for having me.
No, it's good to have you on the program with us this morning. Now, you heard what Gemma Bedlow, and I'm not sure if we still have that clip that we can probably run it back in terms of her speaking on behalf of the band leaders within the Tobago space. They all sat with her and they shared their views. 1.3 million, they indicated, was not enough to run Carnival. It was not enough for band leaders, and indicated that if the THA wants quality mass, they've got to put out quality money, so to speak. So let's get your thoughts. Do you agree? Do you not agree?
No, I don't agree.
You don't agree?
Yeah, I'm diametrically opposite to the statement that was made. And let me bring it into context. The NCBA started at Tobago Fest in 1998. And it was for this very same purpose, that competing the same time with Trinidad would not bring economic growth to the island.
Right.
The mass wouldn't develop. Over the past 20-odd years, the Assembly would have put out probably close to $250 million for the Carnival in February. And, you know, we must look at it from a different perspective. We must look at it from a business perspective. How Tobago can develop putting out that volume of money. It cannot go on as how it used to be. Sometimes, Ria, you just have to throw away the baby and the bathwater. It's as simple as that. We have to cut it and deal with it from a more economic point of view, how we can develop the Carnival to help solve crime, right, to help develop the economy. We're supposed to be having in the school systems Pan, Mass, and Calypso,
right,
from preschool. And let me divert a little bit. My daughter in Spain sent a picture for me Sunday showing me my granddaughter, 2.5 years old, in a preschool with Pan, sticks and Pan.
In Spain?
In Spain. All right, because she is teach pan music in Spain, right? And I'm saying, hey, we keep pussyfooting all the time. We keep playing around and don't want to deal with the issues. The band leaders have been spoiled. Real 90% of the band leaders don't know how to cause a mass.
I want to pause here, Mr. Sandiford, and I want to go to that clip. I want to go to that clip and so that we bring some of the viewers up to speed. For those who may have forgotten or not, may just simply not know what we're talking about. I want to play that clip.
I am Ms. Gemma Bedlow Dennis, interim chairman of the Tobago Band Leaders Association. We are here discussing 2023 Tobago Carnival, and the band leaders, along with myself, feel thief, unjust, disrespected on the allocation given to mass. I know I will get enemies, but being on the board of the festival, I am representing mass, and I have to stand up for my band leaders. That's it. I am not here discussing no board business. I am here discussing mass. And we are tired of the disrespect. The allocation of 1.3, we the band leaders is saying no to it. We don't want it.
All right, and that was Gemma Bedlow there. Now, Mr. Sandiford, you're indicating here that you are not in favor. You do not agree.
No, I don't agree. You see, we have to look at it realistically. We need to sit down and work out the proper logistics, work out how we can benefit from this investment. We can't, listen, we cannot wait 2 weeks before Carnival to try and design a mass, right? We need to look at how we could produce our mass to bring foreign reserves. I ain't talking about a weekend and Trinidadians come up online and thing. I'm talking about bringing in people from Asia, from Europe, to come and participate. The Carnival is just an event, you know. The Carnival should be, the whole thing should be structured over 2 weeks, whereby you have visitors coming to the island, seeing our waterfalls, seeing our parks, seeing our wildlife, that kind of something, so that they would enjoy Tobago. Remember, we are starting last on the Carnival calendar, and it must be properly structured. Now, I oppose the amount of fêtes they had in the Tobago Carnival.
Right.
Because I think it was a waste of time, a waste of money. Stage in the sea and this kind of Mickey Mouse thing.
Did it lose the essence?
It lose it.
All of the...
It lose it. Because here what happened. You didn't get much participation from the Tobago bands. And I don't know if it's their representation, the band leader representation in regards to dealing with the festival commission, that was the problem. But I'm saying, let us sit down as civil Tobagonians. Let us come up with a comprehensive package that we can really make this thing work. Because we cannot continue stretching our hands and begging the assembly for money. Yes, it's a social event, but we must be able to show returns. Is there anything on the horizon that would indicate that the band leaders, if we give them $10 million this year, what would happen next year? There's no projection. There's a kind of deficit in the intellectual capacity of the band leaders. That is how it is.
Now, I hear what you're saying. Now, you said earlier that sometimes you have to get rid of the baby
and the bathwater.
You didn't say, you said the baby and
the bathwater. Baby and the bathwater. So that is why I'm saying, let us look at the Tobago Carnival in October. Let us look at it from a comprehensive package. Now, they have some comedians in tourism that talk about running Carnival. They go on Grenada to get Grenada input and all kind of Mickey Mouse thing. You understand me? Hear what I'm saying. We have the expertise in Trinidad. We can bring up special people from Trinidad, not to help with the parade and that kind of something, but with the planning from a business perspective. Teach band leaders how to structure the mass as a business. Band leaders ain't register with VAT or nothing like that. You understand me? They just running willy-dilly and they're making money. So the facts are, the time has come for us to change the paradigm. We should be doing our carnival, whereby on your child's school bag, it should have a carnival costume drawn on it. It should have
and marketed from
there.
But isn't it going to be too late? We're talking already. We're into almost the middle of January.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about Carnival 23. You know, I'm talking about down the road.
Beyond.
I'm talking about 5 years development plan.
Let me share very quickly with you a couple of the comments that are coming in. Some really, really valid comments that are coming in on the live here. Phillips Kate says, why don't the band leaders come together and bring out the Monday night mass and also Kiddies Carnival along with Juve in Roxborough and bring Juve back in Scarborough and leave the rest for October? Make it make sense now. Jarlee says, finally, someone who is making sense. People are too disingenuous. The issues the carnival cultural sector are facing today, they've been facing for years.
Yes.
With innovative
Yes.
and potentially more profitable ideas come forward. When innovative and potentially more profitable ideas come forward, they're oftentimes shut down due to folks holding on to what used to be. And I think that's what you're getting at this morning. Colonial mindset versus growth mindset. Julia Brown says, sir, you make sense. They are spending big this year and begging the next year. I just thought I'd throw those comments into the mix.
Yeah, Ria, let me tell you something. The assembly goes to the central government every year with a wish list. But what are we producing here to offset the cost of that money?
Right.
And so I'm saying we must start. And you see, it comes from the assembly, come down. The band leaders don't produce nothing, right? Why they don't form themselves into an organization and our corporation and buy materials on a wholesale basis instead of running down by Samaru 3 days before Carnival to buy a feather for $1,000. You see, the forward thinking must be introduced to the band leaders.
So you say change the way we do things.
Change the way. You have to.
We're talking about create new masks, move away from beads and feathers.
But you could do the two. You could do the two. You could do beads and feathers, and you could do traditional masks. We have the capacity to do it. No longer are we sitting down and forming ideas to bring a mask. We go on the computer, we send it to China, we get boxes of masks, and we have a display room. We could utilize the carnival to help offset crime. We're supposed to be having children's panorama in Tobago and also music festival, because music is not only pan and only thing, right? We're supposed to be able to have a music festival for children in all sphere, so that it could develop the dexterity and the competence of our children. It's all about economics. If we don't do it right now, it will falter, right? Now is the time for us to bite the bullet, make the changes, and also let the comedians and them know in tourism. Let the comedians in tourism know that this is not a thing to make money for them and their partner and the service providers renting tent and that kind of something. All of them should make jail.
Oh Lord, Mr.
Right?
Sanders.
And I'm saying we have to clean out the swamp, and do it right. Tobago has suffered and lingered too long by the illiterates and them who is find themselves with power.
Oh, okay. We're gonna leave it there. But Mr. Sandy, just very quickly here before you go, and I realize that your views are very strong. Your views are very strong as it relates to the carnival and what's been happening with regards to Carnival 2023 in Tobago. You're saying here, move away from what we know as beads. In fact, incorporate beads and feathers with traditional masks. Would traditional masks draw the crowd? As far as you know, would traditional masks draw the crowd? There seems to be a taste for the beads and feathers.
You see, Ria, hear the thing about it. We following the beads and feathers. If you go in France now, you could get beads and feathers. Any part of the world that has carnival, you could get beads and feathers. You know what's the difference?
What makes us unique?
The difference is our midnight rubbers, our peregrinade, our Dame Lorraine, our Moko Jambi. That is our difference. That is our difference.
Right.
And what you should do, what they should be now thinking is to put actions into these costumes. Put actions into it. You say you have technology, use the technology to put actions in the costume.
Take it to the next level.
Yeah, and we could sell this thing and make billions on a continuous basis, not only for Carnival, but during the year by proper marketing. We're supposed to be, you see, the video games. We can have our Queen of Carnival and this sort of thing, or just people playing mass on video games. Just as how the Japanese do it, the Americans do it, we could do that and have a stream of monies coming in all the time.
Question, 1 month before the carnival due date, which is the 17th of February, can this happen?
No, it cannot happen.
It cannot happen.
It cannot happen.
So we're looking at band leaders claiming that they're going to boycott the carnival.
That can't stop the carnival.
Okay.
They don't have the capacity to stop the carnival. Because here what happened. Band leaders of themselves will say they ain't taking part, and 2 days before the costume ready, they go and register. That's the kind of Mickey Mouse thing we deal with all the time.
Okay, Mr. Sandiford. I want to thank you very much for
It's always a pleasure here. It's always a pleasure.
Is it that you're going to meet with them? Is there going to be
No.
discussions?
I ain't meeting with no band leader. And
no further discussions on the issue?
No. Listen, Fali is not one of my favorite people. Fali is not one of my favorite people.
The chief sec?
Yes,
Fali Augustine?
right. But what I'm saying, I'm backing him 100% here. I'm backing him 100% here. Because the idea of a carnival in Tobago at that time was introduced since 1998. And because of the vindictiveness of the PNM government is the reason why we ain't talking other something. Because if they had supported that Tobago carnival, you know what would have happened? Thousands and thousands upon people with cruise ship coming in here and playing mass for 2 weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Sandiford. I want to close this morning with a comment from by Shaquille Jones. Shaquille, good morning and welcome to you. People continue to believe that traditional means old and a long time.
Yeah.
They need to understand that things can be packaged and contextualized to fit cultural transcendence and keep the new generation engaged. Shaquille Jones, thank you. Beautiful comment.
I just want to say something before I go. I was talking to my good friend Victor Hugo, and he was telling me, he said, Terry, no force on this earth can stop an idea when the time has come. The idea is now. Let us go.
Thank you so much. Quick comments from Kelvin James. Kelvin James says, as my grandmother would say, proper chat, my friend. Proper chat, my friend. Thank you so much, dear viewers on the live. We're going to head on over to see what Candace is up to at this time with that jug and bullifay. Candace, over to you.
Welcome back to the Tobago Updates Morning Show. I am Candace Jackson for Out and About, and we are here in the Botanical Gardens in Scarborough, where we are going to learn about a very important part of our carnival culture. And that is none other than fire breathing. And you've seen it. You've seen the guys go out around carnival time. And not just about carnival time, even for any sort of cultural showcase. And you see them breathing fire, in essence turning themselves into dragons. And we are going to show you or give you a look as to what it is, what it takes to be a fire breather. And of course, none other to tell us about it than somebody you've become synonymous with it in the last few years. You've seen him pretty much at any cultural event. He's one of our greatest actors here on the island as well, but we'll talk about that another time. None other than Dwayne White. Good morning and welcome to you.
Good morning, Candice. Good morning. I'm great.
So we're talking about fire breathing today. First of all, just give me an idea of where did this all come from? Like, what was the start of that fire breathing that we see as part of the Jambalasi crew and all of that?
Well, basically, I have been involved in fire breathing since 2015. I've been in the culture and the masquerade, the Jambalasi, since I would say 2008. Wow. But in Tobago, fire breathing wasn't introduced to the mass. Yeah, I went to Trinidad at Paramin, and that's where I was introduced to fire breathing through the Blue Devils in Paramin. So I got my practice when I was in UWI, University of the West Indies, that's in the Creative Arts Department, and I was actually privileged to learn the skill of fire breathing to enhance the masquerade, to create a spectacle for Tobago masquerade, Tobago Jambalasi masquerade.
And what can you tell us about the history of it?
Well, actually, In Tobago, the Jambolassis don't usually breathe fire. That's traditionally. But I myself wanted to sort of contemporize this. Now, the Blue Devils, they breathe fire through their mask. One of the histories of it is that one theory of the fire with the Blue Devils is that they smear their body with the blue to, let's say dilute the grotesqueness of the mask, the black, to make it a little bit more eye-catching, eye-pleasing, and the fire creates a spectacle for that. From children to the elderly, just like the display of fire. So that's how it all come out. Is have another theory where, coming from the Bible, that's Paramins. You know, Paramin is a village, is a more Catholic village.
Yes.
So I can't remember the exact history of it, but Saint Michael the Archangel was sent to fight the devil, and he portrayed himself, or he was an angel, so he portrayed himself, let's say, as the devil to fight the devil. Yeah, wow. And he used fire, one of the devil's elements, or one of the supposed elements. Yeah, you know how society has it. So one of the supposed elements of the devil is fire. So they use fire to combat fire. That's a history of it. But for the masquerade essence, it's used for more spectacle.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know, you have, like I said, you've been part of bringing that as part of the Jambolassi. Yeah. And even the Jambolassi here in Tobago has its own unique origin.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about that as well?
Well, the Jambolassi in Tobago derives from, let's say, slavery days.
Yes.
So, let's say the masses in slavery used to call, or what black used to be bad, right? Anything black was bad. So they say black is the devil. So the slaves then they say, well, they say we are devil, then we show them devil. The molasses, the cane molasses, they smear their bodies in black, the cane stalks, put it on their heads, and let's say make a satire of what they say. If you call it devil, we go show the devil. Yeah. So it's a kind of funny aesthetic, you know, that we Caribbean black people have.
Yes.
We take the negatives and play on it to show them, well, we are greater than what we are. Yeah.
And now, I mean, you've incorporated fire breathing into it. How does it work? Because I mean, we see it and it's just like, it's all like wow when you see the ball of fire coming out of your mouth, and you know, how do you go about doing it?
Well, I mean, parental guidance or professional guidance is strongly advised. Right?
All right, I think we need to repeat that one.
Professional guidance, strongly advised. We should not be practicing this without a trained professional fire breather. How it starts is that we practice with water. We need to get a sort of mist coming out of our mouth for the fire to, let's see, gauge full form. So we practice with water first, and then kerosene. We have to put kerosene in our mouth and the action starts. But before we do so, we use milk to line the stomach for any just in case poisoning, you know, because you know the throat is a involuntary reflex, you know, the thing that will be going on in here. So we don't want the kerosene to be in our mouth for too long. But you know, automatically we thirsty, we want to swallow. Yeah, so just in case that happens, we use milk to line the stomach, just in case any poisoning. Any worst case scenario, you may bring up a bit of vomit, you know, just if you digest it in any way, or you may secrete very smoothly.
All right.
But that's worst case scenario. Worst case scenario.
And of course, this is why you leave it to the professionals like yourself.
Yeah.
But I mean, you've also been teaching people how to do this. And what can you tell us about the growth of fire breathing here in Tobago and just getting more people involved with it?
Well, Candice, to tell you the honest truth, when I came to Tobago as a fire breather, the demands were so high. Everybody wants this in this event, and as a piece of spectacle with fire in that event, and I said I alone can't do it. So it was Antonia Thomas and I learned at the same time. We came over to Tobago and we hit the ground running with demands. Everybody want this in their events, in their parties, in their cultural shows. And we took it upon ourselves to train people so that the demands wouldn't be too strenuous on us. So we have the supply to work with the demands. Antonia trained a few. I am training a few. For this time around, I had to let down a lot of jobs because I was so busy and I can only supply so much that they demand.
Yes.
So that's why I want to train the young people in Tobago who are interested in the craft so they can actually progress with where I started.
All right, so we're going to get into it now, and he is going to give us a tutorial as to how fire breathing works.
Yes. So first, we have the water. The water is used for basically training. Now this is a new bottle of water. I'll give you this one. I'll use my pipe water. Yeah. Now the rules in fire breathing, we have two elements that we have to pay a lot of respect to: the wind and fire. Obviously, we play with, right?
Yes.
Usually, when we go into the aesthetic of the mask, the full adornment and masking with the charcoal or the blue or whatever have you, we normally pray, ask our ancestors and ask our spiritual guiders to keep our soul, to keep our spirits safe, because we are playing with an element that can be harmful to us. Yeah, so we pray. In this instance, it's just a demonstration, so I'll just say a small prayer just to protect us. Dear Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for this day. Help us to portray this experience the best way we can. Protect us, protect our lungs. And I ask you to please guide Candice and I as we demonstrate for Tobago and by extension Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah?
Right. So.
Yeah. So firstly, do's and don'ts. When you want to create a mist from your mouth, you're filling your mouth halfway with water. And you want to create a small hole from your mouth and blow as hard as possible until you see a nice cloudy mist occurs.
Okay.
With this, you have to go with the wind, not against the wind. Soon as you go against the wind, the water will blow back in your face. If it's not water, the petrol and fire will come back in your face. So respecting the elements is going with the elements. Never go against them, you know?
Go with them.
Go with them. So the wind is blowing this way. Wherever you see the mist goes, that's where the element of the wind takes it. Right. Now, firstly, let me tell you what is happening here. Now, the airflow from your mouth, you have to shoot as like a cannon. I can show you probably what you're doing. You're blowing, and that's not new to the form. Some people blow very carefully and dainty, you know.
Oh my goodness.
You with a force, right? You will feel here engaged. Like if you're blowing a balloon, but with more force.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's try it one more time. Breathe. A little better. A little better. A little better. A little better. Let's try again. Right? So take a deep breath from a diaphragm. Yeah. Water in your mouth. Deep breath. And then blow. Yeah? I'll do it with you. Well. You're sort of getting it, right? You're sort of, it's coming there, it's coming.
Well, I think now we can go and see you doing the real thing.
Alright. This was a pre-made flambeau. But usually, the best thing to make the flambeau with is brown cotton. Or burlap. Some people say burlap, burn slowly. Kerosene in the glass bottle. Lots of wind. Right, we got it lighting. Yeah. So we just warm up our lungs with water. See, so wherever the flame goes, wherever the wind goes, the flame goes, hence the fire goes.
Yes.
Now, although this is a gas gallon, kerosene inside here, never use gas. Yeah. We also don't use punching because punching have a way that's cooking them out. You know, the heat of punching. Yeah. And we ain't want them gums cooking.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little sippy straw, so you can feel like
a little sippy straw, you said.
You feel like if you're drinking something normal.
All right.
As you can see, the wind is really strong.
Yes.
What we do is wait for an instance where the wind kind of give us a chance, and then we take it by storm. So the wind is really strong. The fire will dissipate quicker with stronger wind. Less wind, you will see the more spectacle of the flame.
And now I have to ask, has there been anything that's ever happened to you while you were doing this?
Oh yeah, I get scorched already. My lips get scorched, my hair's burn off, mustache burn off. I mean, it wasn't second or third degree burns, right? And neither first, more scorch. Yeah, as you blow constantly, you have to face the heat. You know, when you're in the kitchen, you have to face the heat. I have to face the heat. So some people scurry or run from the heat. When you blow in on the fire, is one thing I forgot to mention. Your mouth is the source. Each where fire comes from, it has a source. When you blow in the fire, running back to the source, so you just need to nudge a little when that happens. Yeah, you pull back a little so you know the source is closed off from the element. Yeah, so you will get some heat. I got scorched. Unfortunately, I witnessed individuals get burnt badly. Yeah. I know why. You know when they say when your neighbor house on fire, what's yours?
Yes.
Yeah, I actually know how to maneuver the chance of getting burned. If I get burned, the element suddenly take a shift for the worse and catch me off guard. Yeah? So we'll try one more time. Right, less wind.
And of course, this is why, you know, you learn properly and you leave it to the professionals, like Dwayne. So, but I mean, you can learn, and like I said, it's not that difficult to learn.
That's what I was talking about.
Yes.
So the wind took a turn, and I felt the heat.
Yes.
Yeah, and you see the flame was right there, right?
Oh yes.
Yeah. So I had us to maneuver quickly. Yeah.
Well, that's when you have some good reflexes. Now, how can people get in contact? Because of course, I mean, we want people to learn, and we want them to learn in a safe way so that this art form does not die. How can they get in contact with you?
Well, I have an account on Facebook. Well, the social media platforms I am on, well, they're renowned TikTok.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, Facebook and Instagram. You can get me by JR, the creative activist, Dwayne White Jr. My phone number, you can get me at 360-0263. 360-0263. I train as young as 15-year-old children to adults who want to learn the art form.
And when does the classes begin?
My classes begin on the 21st, that's next week, Saturday, 21st and 22nd of January.
And of course, it's all towards producing a fire-breathing, a full fire-breathing Jambalassi band.
Full fire-breathing Jambalassi band. That's what it gets towards.
All right, great.
For fire breathing.
I want to thank you so much, Dwayne, for allowing me to come in and get a little something.
You still getting a little something. You still getting a little.
We'll see about that one.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, the wind is a little bit scaring me right now.
Wait, oh, I feel it. You see how the wind kind of subside here?
All right. Well, that's how we're going to have to wrap things up for this morning. Of course, if you want to be part of the Fire Breed Jambalasi Band, get connected with Dwayne. You can send it on the social media. If you miss it, just go back and look at it. But in the meantime, there's a lot more coming up for you on the program, and maybe I might give it a try. So see about that. Anyways, we'll see you right after the break.
Coconut's Cafe, the buffet restaurant that specializes in all your tasty local dishes. For breakfast and for lunch. Breakfast includes coconut bake and sada roti, served with chokers, bull joil, and sausages in tomato sauce. Not forgetting beef and cheese pies, shepherd's pie, macaroni pie, and rice in various styles. Meat served in a variety of flavors, garden salads, and pasta salads. All this accompanied by fruit juices, coconut water, your choice of a great combination to appease your taste buds. So call us today to order, as we are here to accommodate your busy schedules or if you are having a cooking day off.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Morning, viewers, and welcome back to the Tobago Updates Morning Show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough. It is just about 7:55 a.m. this morning, and we want to go to a quick birthday shout out before we head on into this segment. All right, and this morning we want to send a birthday shout out to Melanie James. That's Melanie James, wishing you a happy birthday, coming from the entire Tobago Updates family. It's your day. Do enjoy the celebrations. And I couldn't help viewers but note, as one of our viewers would have said on the live, Candice, you can't blow and laugh at the same time. They think serious in the mix here this morning. But at this point, we are happy to welcome on the set with us here this morning the lineup representing the University of the San Diego Office of International Studies Abroad. And we have with us Perla Myers, Executive Director of the Jacobs Institute for Innovation in Education and Mathematics Professor at the university, Dr. Greg Pareto.
Yes, sir.
Did I get that right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Lead Professor and Dr. Odesma Darimple, Faculty Liaison for Community Engagement. And if you notice Darimple name any at all within the Tobago space, yes, the daughter of the legend Cecil Darimple, indeed. And we're happy to have you all with us this morning. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Thank you.
All right, so as we get started this morning, we're excited about the context and the idea behind the Study Abroad program. But I want you all to start by telling us a little bit about the University of San Diego.
Yeah. So the University of San Diego is a private Catholic institution in Southern California, serving approximately 4,000 undergraduate students and many other graduate students, professional education. We are probably the largest private institution in the area, and we take a lot of pleasure in working with students from all across the region, California, but also from all 50 states in the United States.
All right. Tell us a little bit, Dr. Darimple, that decision to be able to now venture out there, taking that skill set, that ability, and making that determination, yes, the University of San Diego is the place for me.
Well, so my area is engineering. Engineering education in particular. And what sort of really attracted me to the University of San Diego is sort of the ability to mix that engineering with this appreciation of social justice and community engagement. And one of those both things sort of really align with what we call that Catholic identity. And it's a place where I felt I could practice engineering in my way without feeling like I was doing something foreign or different or not appreciated. And so, you know, that was one of the main things that I think that attracted me to the University of San Diego. And I think it's the closest to our weather without being back here.
All right, so Pulamaya, tell us, this, as far as I understand, is the first study abroad to Trinidad and Tobago. Tell us about the choice.
Well, this was organized by Odesna Dalrymple, and she has done a study abroad here before with another university, and she thought that we can learn from the richness of Trinidad and Tobago, and I guess, yeah.
Certainly. And I'd like you all to share with us, let us know the students that will be benefiting from this experience, and when is it carded to take place?
Well, it's in process.
Yes.
We're actually in our last week. It's about a little shy of 3 weeks. We started in Trinidad for about a week and a half, and now we're here for our final sort of 8 days. The focus of the course is on the study of immigration in the Trinidad and Tobago context, and certainly we have a lot of different aspects of that topic to share with these students. I think one of the things that made studying that topic in Trinidad and Tobago so impactful is the access to so many different perspectives. And so we've had the opportunity to engage with an NGO, the Living Waters Community, who are a big part of that effort to support, in particular, the Venezuelan migrants. We've had the opportunity to interact with the Chief Immigration Officer. We've had the opportunity to engage with both the Canadian High Commissioner, the Venezuelan ambassador, and then here in Tobago we will have similar opportunities to hear sort of the Tobago side of that equation too, by speaking to I think immigration as well, some of our Filipino communities, the African community that has resettled here, a lot in the medical field. So just to get such different aspects of this immigration story. It's not always as possible in any and every location, and there's something very unique about being able to do that here.
So the course is actually Sociology of Immigration, as offered by the university. Tell us a little bit about the broader program, the course of study for these 9 students. Is it that they're doing the same program, or this is one of the courses offered within the faculty in doing different programs? Tell us a little bit about that.
So we can say it's the same course, the Sociology of Migration, but typically when I teach it in Southern California, we focus on the U.S. experience and our relationship with Mexico, our nearest neighbor. Bringing the course here, we've had the opportunity to take that same question, what are the factors that drive migration to and from Trinidad and Tobago, and ask about it in this context. And so just as Dr. Dalrymple is saying, we've been able to learn about that, but in a very different way than we do at home. At home, we do some community engagement to be sure, but most of it comes from the books. Here, we've been meeting with government officials, NGOs, advocates, activists, various leaders from around the region.
And migrants themselves.
And migrants themselves who've offered their perspective on what it's like to uproot themselves, move from one country to the next. And so through all those different perspectives, I think we've gotten a very rich portrait of what migration looks like in this country, but also in the region.
When you present yourself like this, and there are parents and students looking on, and they're probably wondering, what else does the University of San Diego offer? Anyone wants to give a little insight in terms of what are the focus areas or the faculties at the university?
Sure. So I think one of our strengths is really the community engagement piece that Dr. Dalrymple is flagging to us now. So I think one of the things that makes USD special is our capacity and our willingness, our interest in working with local community members on the issues that we're discussing in class. And so we bring that spirit here to Trinidad and Tobago. The real advantage, though, is that we have this lady with us whose connections to this place have really opened doors that would be, frankly, much harder to access in the United States. And so we've been really privileged to learn from the folks that she's been able to introduce us to. What do you think?
Yeah, and I would also add University of San Diego is a liberal arts university, and so giving that broad spectrum, asking those critical questions is a big part of our sort of teaching epistemologies. And so even though we may, in addition to that, have like, engineering or business, but all our students have to do this liberal arts core. And so promoting that all-roundedness in the education is a big part of what we value. Also, in addition to which, the interaction between students and faculty. It's a relatively smaller community.
Absolutely.
Our class sizes usually don't extend beyond about 30, 35. And we have that very, close relationship with students and that ability to truly engage them, understand them, really try to connect the material to their own personal experiences too.
Tell us a little bit about the process of selecting these 9 students from among obviously a wider cross-section. I can only imagine when you say study abroad to Trinidad and Tobago. Tell us a little bit about that experience with your students.
So I think mostly we don't select them, they select us. So our university makes available to them a whole wide range of destinations and courses that they can take all around the world. Many of those places we've been traveling to for 10, 20 years. This, as Dr. Dalrymple mentions, is our inaugural trip to Trinidad and Tobago. And so I think one of the big draws were, of course, the courses that we're offering, but I think the biggest draw was coming to the Caribbean to experience life and migration issues here in Trinidad and Tobago. And so I think a lot of our work is actually the reverse. We do a lot of work recruiting students to the program, right? To bring them in, to use their January time that would normally be free from school to come and do a class in another country. But I think the real selling point here was the experience we're able to offer through the connections that Dr. Dalrymple enjoys here.
So go ahead.
I was going to say, but the experience they have had, I think we will have absolutely no problem in bringing
recruiting in the future.
Oh yeah, they have been singing their praises. They have had such an amazing time.
And that's excellent indeed. For those trying to make the connection as well, this area of study in particular, the broader program, what area or degree do I need to look at if I'm looking at this university to ensure you have this kind of exposure? Make the connection for me with what is the follow-up employment and opportunity for persons who have pursued studies in this area.
Very good. So we have... Our students go on to do a whole wide range of things. I know in my discipline in sociology, which is where I teach, our students typically go into places like the helping professions, right? So often social work, into the medical field, but we also see a lot of folks go into city leadership, into government, to various other professions. But I think that track is not determined by, but informed by the sort of degree that you study for, right? So in sociology, I'd say that's our pathway, right? A lot of our students are interested in making an impact in the wider world, so they pursue careers that allow them to do that. But I think it might look a little different in mathematics and in engineering.
But I would also say one of the things that came out of this trip in particular is an exposure to persons working in the foreign services. And so, and the students having the ability to actually interact with those folks, both from the US perspective, the Canadian perspective, the Venezuelan and the Trinidad perspective. And so a lot of students are now sort of thinking about futures in that type of endeavor as well.
Because I can only think of the experiences with dealing with serious persons at immigration via the US and back here in Trinidad and Tobago. So I could only imagine it's nice for the students to get a kind of variation in terms of the perspective. And what about your area in terms of mathematics? Like where do your students go on to generally?
So basically they go to everything. There's a lot of students that are going into data science. Mathematics is everywhere. And so the ability to think mathematically is beneficial for any career. And so our students work in all over. They become lawyers, they become doctors, they become...
data scientists.
Yeah, data scientists, definitely. And
teachers.
Actuaries, teachers.
Yes. And that's definitely a plus because, generally when you speak about a subject matter specializing in that area, people tend to think, all right, you only got the opportunity to become a teacher.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the thing that is important about the liberal arts mission at our university. And it's the thing that I tell students all the time. It's not your major that's going to decide your career. It's the experiences you get outside the classroom that helps you build the bridge between what you study and what you ultimately do. So for me, it's less about sociology itself, right? Oh, you're going to become a sociologist. Very few will, right? Very few are going to get the PhD and write books, right? But what they will do is they will follow their interests and passions to a career that allows them to answer the questions that they care about at their job, right? And so I think you would see in engineering, they don't all become engineers. In sociology, they don't all become mathematicians, right? But they're able, through the liberal arts program that encourages breadth of knowledge, to connect that degree to all sorts of careers, right? So sociology certainly would also connect to data science, to law, to public health, all of these different areas. But that's the thing we want to stress to them is you have a real diversity of options, right? And that your major doesn't necessarily decide the path.
And generally, when is the application admission period for your university? Again, we're catering to the wide cross-section tuned in this morning. And for those who may have an interest, hey, I want to follow up on that program, access, websites, social media, to be able to connect to get more insights in relation to the programs that you offer.
December. So the deadline is in December, and I think there is a late deadline in January. So if anybody wanted to still apply, there might be a possibility.
That's right.
But prepare for.
That's right. So the admission teams is reading all those applications right now. Decisions will come out in late spring. They get the summer to decide, and then they would roll in the fall.
All right. What would you say is definitely a must? Or why would you say is the University of San Diego definitely a must at this program as compared to perhaps any other university that may offer similar? What's your key selling point?
My key selling point is connection to faculty. I think because we are a small school, so as I said, we're a small private school in San Diego, we are surrounded by other much larger public schools, right? Incredible institutions, but their class sizes are going to be much, much larger. You're talking 100 to 200 students per. When you are at USD, you get that intimate connection with your faculty that allow you to have those conversations one-on-one with an adult in your life about how you, for instance, build that bridge between what you're studying and your career. What do you all think?
Oh, I would 100% agree with that. And then I think also because the university, as I said, that Catholic identity truly believes in social justice. And so we are infusing that in all of our majors. And then the importance of being good citizens, being critical thinkers as citizens, and really trying to be change makers. I think that's another big part of sort of the epistemology of the institution.
As we prepare to wrap this morning's interview, Dr. Dalrymple, tell us, what do you hope would be the definite takeaway for your students who would have been exposed to this study abroad program?
So I think some folks, when they first, you think of a Caribbean island and you think of this place and you go and you're sipping on the beach and it's very relaxed. And it's not that because they've certainly had some of that. But they were so shocked to see the level of industrialization. They were so shocked to see the sophistication in which various people are handling some very serious, challenging problems. I think they've seen so many more of the assets that we have to offer and the ways in which that this experience has engaged them in thinking so much more critically about a topic. And ways in which now they can take this and even apply to how they understand the U.S. context, like in the U.S.-Mexico relationships, for instance.
All right. And for you, Paula Myers, your takeaway that you're looking forward to?
I am very much looking forward to having future collaborations we do research, development, professional learning, and I'm so excited to merge the richness of both countries and 3 countries and see where we can take it, learn from the assets of each other.
And just, an additional question slipping in there, just before you give your closing comments, is this something funded and supported by the university, or the students are required to have an input in relation to being able to benefit from this opportunity?
It's a combination of both. So students pay a fee to participate in these programs, but they also are eligible for various scholarships. So a number of the students that are on this trip receive scholarship money to pay for those fees. So it is a combination of university support and then also student input.
All right. And as a lead professor, and then you hear the title and you say, you've got to answer the questions back to administration as well. What is your hope in terms of the takeaway from this initiative? And I know you've got to look at it from not just the experience here, but the broader perspective of the university. Lead professor, you got to answer those questions.
That's right. I'm the one who's accountable, huh? I would say that I think in the minds of some of our students, the Caribbean is remote. And what I think they see now is that it's very connected, that many, many different geopolitical relationships intersect in this place. So in addition to it being an advanced industrialized society that deals with many, many complex problems, they see how many different players in the region and in the world are involved, right, in migratory issues here in Trinidad and Tobago. So I think it's one of the things that I think study abroad is meant to teach us, right, that there is so much richness, dynamism, and connection between the place that we're from and the place that we're visiting now.
All right, excellent. A quick question. This goes up to the 21st. What are students going to be engaged in over the next few days while here in Tobago?
So we're hoping to meet with some immigration representatives here in the Tobago context, meeting with representatives from the Filipino community, as you said, the African community of migrants. I think we're hoping to have some exploration on the history of Tobago. We already had a visit to our wonderful museum, and that was really insightful. And then, of course, just enjoying also the...
I was waiting for that.
So they've already had their Boca Reef tour, and they've had an amazing beach experience. We're also hoping to be able to visit Argyle Waterfall, have sort of a river line. That's a big highlight. So a mix of sort of both fun, but also that work as well.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much for joining us here on SED, representatives of the University of San Diego Office of International Studies. So when you see them out there, remember, give them a warm welcome and hi as the students enjoy Tobago here, and more importantly, their area of study. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Julia.
Viewers, we want to thank you most certainly for the continued love and support for the Tobago Updates morning show. Those of you connecting with us via TV, that's M&E TV and Gael. Those of you listening to us via radio, and to each and every one of you connecting with us online. It is Tuesday, folks, and that means tomorrow we're looking forward to Youth Wednesday on the Tobago Updates morning show, coming to you each and every week. So we look forward and encourage you to ensure that you tune in to Youth Wednesday. They got some exciting things in store for you tomorrow, as they do each and every day for you, as we continue to look forward to connecting with you here on the Tobago Updates morning show. But remember, we are heading out here from the Tobago Updates morning show, but stay tuned and stay connected as we head on over to GMT. Bye-bye for now.
Class party, not a problem. Instead, Goodwood Secondary School opted for a non-traditional celebration. The institution hosted its first annual Brunch in the Woods, a picnic affair.
Brunch in the Woods is a picnic affair where it's like our end of term class party, but we're going on a larger scale. So it's a picnic affair where we bring everything out in the open, we celebrate under the sun, we eat, we drink, we have entertainment by our very own kings and queens of Goodwood Secondary School, and it's an opportunity for us to have all the stakeholders on the compound with us and just celebrate.
Secretary of the Division of Education, Research and Technology, Zoisha Hackett, thoroughly enjoyed this unique event. She even had the opportunity to learn.
I just want to comment on how creative an event like this is. I mean, coming to the end of an academic year, an academic term at that, where we've had so many challenges just getting back into the what we call regular curriculum. When you see events like this, you're very, very impressed by the fact that a school has been able to use nature, right, and the balance of the natural environment, and bring that as a part of the curriculum and have students so immersed in this educational experience.
Past and present students were happy to be part of an event like this.
It was a very good idea. It is going really, really nice. It turned out better than I expected. It was executed nicely.
I think the brunch was well executed. It's been a long time since we had an event, a school event, and I was looking forward to it. And the expectations was high, and they succeeded. It was a success.
Well, it's the same thing for me. I think that it was one of the best ideas Goodwood ever put forward to. And I think everything just looking amazing, and it could happen many more times again.
The initiative is a good initiative. It shows that there's a lot of camaraderie going on within the schools, alongside when we got invited to work alongside with Miss Maslin. I was happy to get on board because we always dreamt of coming back to the school to actually do something for the school. So I'm glad Miss here So we know we're seeing this going a lot further than here today.
Brunch in the Woods, a picnic affair, was held on the school's compound in Goodwood. I'm Marlon Gottslieben for Let's Talk Tobago.
That was a production of the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly.
Yeah. Hey. Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago. Wake up with Candace and Denicia. Let's go, go. It's a brand new morning. Rise up to a brand new dawning. As the passion start to rise, the energy fill the skies. I say thanks a favor to wake up and hear me neighbor. 60,000 people strong, and the vibes is never wrong. We are beauty, we are power. We are people in the sun. We are beaches, we are rivers. We are melanated ones. We special and there is no denying. Tobago is number one. I am you and you are me. Together we stronger.
Good morning, and welcome to Good Morning Tobago here on Tobago Updates. I am your host, Chanel Felix, and this morning, like no other, we are going to have a really in-depth conversation regarding what's happening in the political arena here in Tobago. Now, we've had some interesting developments over the last week where we've seen political leader of the PDP, Watson Duke, come out asking for peace, and he has asked to have a meeting with the Chief Secretary, Farley Augustine. However, he indicated that that meeting should be without mediators. Quite an interesting development indeed in the political arena here in Tobago after all that we have seen late last year in December, where we saw all the representatives under the PDP submitting their resignations. Now, in the beginning, it seemed as water on a duck's back, as we say here in Tobago. Political leader Watson Duke seemed not to be fazed by the resignations, although he said it did catch him by surprise. But the people indicated that, I mean, that is what he called for. Didn't he tell them that if they were not in agreement with his party's rules, that they should, you know, get out of his party? And indeed, so they did. And now we see a complete turn of events. Now, in an interview last week held on TV6, Mr. Duke indicated that as it's a new year, he's turning a new leaf. Is this indeed a new Watson Duke that we're seeing here in Tobago? Or is it a part of a larger agenda? We do not know. But this morning, to have such an interesting conversation on the developments that are happening here in the Tobago space, I have with me on video this morning Dr. Bishnu Raghunath. And now, it's extremely interesting for me particularly, and somewhat of you know, a 360, if you would say, because I was once a student of Dr. Raghunath at the University of the West Indies, where he taught ethics and integrity in the public sector. And this is quite an interesting occurrence here in Tobago that really looks into some of the ethics that we have seen displayed under the political party, the PDP. And so when we talk about integrity in politics, Watson Duke his name tends to come up a lot. Dr. Raghunath, good morning.
And it's a good thing that you start talking about ethics and integrity. I mean, because we really need that to go in
Yes, and this is
Trinidad.
a full circle moment for me, because we are taking the theory and we are seeing the practicality of it here in the political arena in Tobago.
Well, definitely yes. And there seems to be a real concern as to whether or not people are exercising the type of ethics and integrity, or whether they actually understand it. And in fact, to be honest with you, I am a little bit well, I shouldn't say disappointed, because I'm hoping that somebody else would have done it in Tobago. But I remember shortly after the PDP took office last year, um, I wrote to then Chief Secretary, and I wrote to several people in the THA, offering to come into Tobago and do some ethics training with them free of charge. But of course, I don't think my offer was accepted. I am hoping that somebody else would have done it. I don't know the reason why um, they didn't want it from the university,
What
but
were
that
you
doesn't matter.
proposing Dr. Raghunat to come in and teach exactly, or to create a workshop on?
I had done a workshop. I had prepared a workshop for the parliament when the government after the last after the 2020 elections, and basically I was going to do that same workshop with the members of the THA, letting them understand the whole basis of where does ethics and integrity fit into their lives, and how and they should act and behave if people are to trust them. And that's the main concern, because what we saw last year, for instance, happening in the THA, and the infighting and so on, that has caused significant amount of distrust of the PDP, of politicians, and I mean, I've heard on another interview where somebody speaking from the Tobago business element was actually saying, well, look, people are not sure whether they made a big mistake in electing this party into government and so forth. And it's not a matter of whether they made a big mistake, it's a matter of whether the people who are in positions understand their ethical role in the context of governance. And that, I think, is one of the biggest challenges. Because you see, it's one thing to say we win an election. The bigger part of it, and the bigger challenge, is how you govern. And in saying how you govern, or asking the question how you govern, you have to govern where there's a degree of responsibility, where it's not only a matter of giving the people what they want. It's a matter of letting the people understand that governance is not about government. Governance is about where there's interaction, where the people feel that they are part and parcel, where there's inclusivity, where people feel included in the process. And that, I think, is one of the challenges that we have with in terms of our politics, in terms of how we uh, promote governance, because we focus on government rather than governance.
Right.
And
And
that, I
Dr.
think, is
Raghunat, before we go any further into the interview, a lot of time people tend to lump integrity and ethics into one and oftentimes use them as interchangeable concepts. So I would like for you to make it clear to the people of Tobago the difference between ethics and integrity in politics, and how is this related to the situation we saw with the resignation of the PDP representatives late last year?
all right. So let's start with that simple term of ethics. Ethics is really about making a judgment, a moral judgment. Now, question is, whose morality we talking about? Basile Pandey once said politics has a morality of its own. But we know the morals within our society. We don't have to uh, go back and redefine it and make over the wheel and so forth. No, we know it. We know right is right, wrong is wrong. We know what is fair, we know what is not fair. We know what we should do and what we shouldn't do. Those are things that we know. And ethics is driven by your moral standards, right? Now, here's where integrity comes in. And integrity comes in where you maintain a certain stance regardless of what is happening. So, in from an ethical perspective, we say, okay, fine, you speak the truth as much as you possibly can. There are initial times, or there are limited times when Yes, you could lie, and it's good. It's okay to lie, but in the main, we talk the truth all the time. And your integrity is where you now carry that practice in every activity of your life. And when I say you carry that practice, you don't change things, you don't do things. I use as a simple example. If you're driving on a highway and there's a traffic jam and everybody is using the shoulder, the question is, you know it is wrong to use the shoulder. What goes through your mind? Should I follow everybody else and use the shoulder, or should I stay in the traffic? And if you decide that I should really use the shoulder, but you know what is holding you back? Because there's that thought in the back of your mind that says, me with my type of luck, from the time I pull on that shoulder, a policeman will appear and charge me. So I'm not going to do it. But I'm not going to do it not because it is the wrong thing to do, I'm going to not do it because I don't want to get charged. And that undermines your integrity. Your integrity, if you had said, they could do what they want. I know I'm supposed to maintain the law and stay on the road, I will stay on the road. Then you could say we have integrity. But from the time you mix between, I could push my hand here and see whether I get catch, or I don't want to get catch, so that's why I'm not doing it. That's where we now question your integrity. And now, so if I may ask a question, or if I may try to answer one of your future questions, is Mr. Duke maintaining his integrity? Is this the way that Mr. Duke has acted in the past? Yes, I would say yes. Question is it the ethical thing to do now? And here we have now to separate ethics from integrity.
And I think this shows a big conflict in the ethics and moral compass of the then political leader and deputy political leader, Farley Augustine, when we saw that kind of spat that they had over that Roxborough Performing Arts group, where it seemed as if the chief secretary tried to do what we would call the ethical thing, and going through the proper channels, while Mr. Duke would have wanted him to take another approach. And this would have caused some conflict that seemed to be just an eruption of some underlying issues that had previously existed between the two. And so that would have been one of the reasons for that separation. But as apart from that separation, we now are in 2023, and we're seeing what seems to be, a complete change from Mr. Duke. He's now calling for discussions with the chief secretary, but he's refusing to have mediators, which is quite interesting. Can you give us a little bit of a political insight there, why you think Mr. Duke and his personality would not allow for anyone who he deems to be independent to be a part of such discussions?
All right, so let me just start by saying that I'm not in Mr. Duke's mind at all. I could only suggest what he's thinking. So I'm not saying that this is right or wrong. I'm merely suggesting. I think one of the concerns that Mr. Duke realizes now is simply this, that whereas he started off the PDP with the big aim that, yes, Mr. Duke will become prime minister one day, the resignation of the various members of the THA Executive Council from the PDP now undermines that whole strategy for him to become Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. So now he has now to again revisit how he is going to approach his goal of becoming Prime Minister. And that means simply to reuniting that party, or at least if not reuniting that party, at least demonstrating that I am willing to talk and so on. Now your question, why does he not want mediators around? Well, for all intents and purposes, all I could suggest that Mr. Duke is thinking is simply that he wants a fair and frank discussion. But apart from that, Mr. Duke has had a significant amount of experience in negotiating, and in negotiating where he takes the lead and he's negotiating one-on-one, and he doesn't want intervention. Now, he hasn't had the use of intervention because he, as a strong minded person, he could get his way once he carries his argument by himself.
And Dr. Raghunath, I think this segues into my other question, which is, and a lot of people want to know as we look on from the public perspective, is Mr. Duke doing what's best for Tobago at this time, or is he doing what's best for Mr. Duke?
Well, personally, I would think that he's doing what is best for Mr. Duke, because again, that's why I started off by saying he has his own goal, his own personal goals, which he still hopes to achieve. And in fact, I noted that in one of his interviews, he said that in the next time around, he'll be running as chief secretary, um, should there be an election. Anytime soon, he will go and say that he's going to take the role of chief secretary. So clearly, Mr. Duke is seen about himself. That has always been his goal. I mean, yes, he cares about his followers and his supporters and so on, but there's a good saying that I mean, I don't know whether I had used it in your class, but I'm socialist for the masses, but I'm capitalist for myself. In that, yes, I want everybody to get everything that they want, but then that doesn't prevent me from being as wealthy as I possibly can. And that is anti-socialist. But again, so in a way, that saying comes in handy with Mr. Duke. He's socialist for the masses, but he's capitalist for himself, because really and truly, his end goal is simply to achieve his own personal goals. Now, as to whether
So the perspective that Mr. Duke's success in Tobago has built the confidence of the Trinidad voter populace in him. And the fact that he's losing his ground and his base in Tobago negatively impacts his future political ambitions in Trinidad. And as we question the intentions or whether Mr. Duke is operating for the greater good of Tobago or for himself, we can see where he's now spending most of his time in Trinidad trying to regain that support from the ground there. In terms of political future in the local government election that is on the way, any predictions there in terms of support, especially when we see what is happening here in Tobago?
Well, definitely, and that is the challenge that Mr. Duke faces. Having now seen the collapse of the PDP in Tobago, and in fact, more and more people seem to be resigning from the PDP, there's that loss of trust for Mr. Duke. Now, yes, he will still have his hardcore PSA supporters who believed in him and will support him, but winning an election is not about just a handful of supporters. It means that you must be able to win sufficient supporters to beat another party. And definitely, what has happened in Tobago has undermined confidence in Mr. Duke and his ability to win people who were sitting on the fence before to come join with him. That ability has been reduced significantly. And in that regard, as at this point in time, I would say that Mr. Duke's chances in a local government election is very, very, very slim.
So you also believe that it has been significantly impacted by the lack of confidence that Tobagonians are now expressing in his leadership?
Definitely.
And before you go, Dr. Raghunath, again, here at Tobago Updates, it's always a pleasure to have you on. And from a past student perspective, it's extremely, I take it as a privilege to be able to interview you here this morning. But before you go, there was a comment made by Mr. Duke recently. He indicated that, Tobago is no longer... investors' paradise, let's just say, because of the rift that has happened within the THA. Do you think these comments come as a part of his strategy to make Tobago look, you know, unappetizing to the investor unless he is a part of it or unless this reconciliation happens?
No. I don't think it's a matter of whether he's a part of it. I think clearly there's that concern as to whether or not Tobago, people would want to invest in Tobago. Now, when we had the change in government from the PNM to the PDP in the THA, there was a hope that a lot of Tobagonians who had migrated and who are now in the diaspora would have returned to Tobago, or at least invested in Tobago, to make Tobago better. I mean, there was that whole big plan to redevelop Roxborough, for instance, and make it into something better. But that was dependent upon external help. We remember in that same trip that Mr. Duke made when he went to New York, when the Roxborough performance was there, he was actually trying to sell that image that people need to come back to Tobago and invest in Roxborough. Now, I don't know if you saw the videos of the hall that he would have presented in, but it was virtually empty. And that was before the big rift. So I don't know whether that would have had an impact upon how Mr. Duke would have thought at that point in time. But I think the whole question here is that people need to understand and people need to see the politics as it is. There's always that concern as to how investors would think and what would be the climate that would encourage investors to come back into Tobago. And then the other question is what type of investments you want. And these things I think the THA has to work out and has to market itself outside into the international community as to what sort of investments that Tobago need. And it is only when that happens. So I don't think Mr. Duke is trying to sell that without him there, Tobago has lost any opportunities. I don't think they have lost any opportunities. I think the possibilities are still there. The question now, however, is how do the THA consolidate and win those investors to come into Tobago and make their investments there.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Raghunath. And I want you to say good morning to Mr. Duke because I'm sure that he's listening. He's locked on because he just canceled his interview for tomorrow. So it seems that your interview had a significant impact on him. So say good morning to Mr. Duke.
Well, good morning, sir. I do hope I'm judging you correctly. But like I said, I am still willing to do that ethics program in Tobago. And in fact, now that I am talking to you, I think maybe one of the channels we could use is probably do a small segment on your show at some point in time where we could talk ethics and integrity across the island.
Exactly, because when they don't want to listen, that's why we have the media. Right? Exactly. So we use another channel. So thank you so much, Dr. Raghunath. And, I look forward to seeing you again soon. And hopefully we can really have that session. And I'm going to segue right into my guest that I have in studio here. I have with me former Secretary Max James. Agata is no stranger to us here on Tobago Updates, and one who has some interesting perspectives to give. And this morning, I'm going to start off by offering the same question that I just ended off with Dr. Raghunath with. When it comes to investment and the viability of the Tobago economy, Watson Duke is now stating that this risk is negatively affecting international investment into the island. Do you think that this is so, or do you think that Mr. Duke is utilizing a strategy that makes Tobago look unappetizing to the investor unless he is a part or unless this rift has been fixed and the call for reconciliation has been answered?
Well, good morning to you again, and thanks for having me. I think that the latter part of your statement or question is more correct. And therein lies an inherent danger of reconciling with Mr. Duke. Because if it is that you are peddling that kind of thinking in the society, is that Tobago is not
appetizing, to use your word, to the investor, then you are putting your country at risk in terms of its economic development. So that, to me, that takes the cake. To me, he's a man absolutely not to be trusted, because he's saying, unless I'm in it, it can't work. Now, I like to be philosophical, and in preparation for this interview, I normally get up and read, because you have to read it to stay current. However, it's just to remind myself of a certain kind of philosophy that Aristotle, you had Socrates and Plato and Aristotle, all who would have learned from Socrates and so forth. And Socrates is saying, he says, the lack of political influence breeds anger, aggression, and ultimate violence. He wrote, quote, men cause revolutions when they are not allowed to share honors, and if they are unjustly or insolently treated, if they believe that is so. And angry men attack out of revenge, not out of ambition. So that Mr. Duke has no real ambitions for Tobago. You know, long ago when we pitched in the park and the yard at home, and something do go wrong, something went wrong with the pitching, with the marbles. You take all the marbles and go. If you really love Tobago, you can't talk about peace and at the same time you have a dagger to the back. In fact, he's actually moved the dagger from behind his back and has brought it forward and is beginning to stab at his former colleagues and stab at his own constituents.
But is this in conflict with what Mr. Duke is saying? Because in his last recent interview, he indicated that this is a changed Watson Duke, that he's taking a different approach. Instead of banging on the table, he's taking, I guess, a more softer approach in having the conversation and wanting to maybe meet in the middle. So is this in conflict with what you are saying at this time?
Well, his actions certainly don't tell us that. You could only learn from when people speak. What comes out of them is that's what you have to judge them by. Let's go to Aristotle again. He says, it is not enough to win a war. It is more important to organize the peace. We give up leisure in order that we may have leisure, just as we go to war in order that we may have peace. It is more difficult to organize a peace than to win a war. But the fruits of victory will be lost if the peace is not organized.
Well, based on the theory put forward here by you, Mr. James, it seems to me that the basis of your argument is leaning towards peace in Tobago and that reconciliation happening.
Yes, on the surface it seems so. Peripherally, it seems so. But in organizing the peace, you have to do certain kinds of things. And Mr. Duke's actions so far doesn't demonstrate that he's really willing to organize the peace. The more he speaks, you see significant public disaffection with him, because you can't want to organize the peace while at the same time you are thrusting with a political dagger or social dagger, whatever it is, a socio-political dagger, so to speak, at your own country. I call Tobago a country, at your own constituents. You can't say, well, investors don't come because here the climate is unstable. But you want to lead in such a situation at the same time.
So based on the framework that you've put forward here this morning by Aristotle, are you then in agreement with the peace or the reconciliation that Mr. Duke is calling for?
Well, sometimes when you go to make the peace and you do the war, sometimes people die.
Right.
And I think that in this particular sense, Mr. Duke is politically dead.
But you are using a framework that says it is better to be in peace than to be in war. So I'm asking, are you therefore supporting the reconciliation that Mr. Duke is calling for?
If it is that we could have trusted him. Because this, as I said, this posture or this posturing now has put pay to all those peace efforts or those well, I don't know if they're really peace efforts, those peace utterances, so that we cannot, if we cannot trust somebody who is self-defeating to his own country, then how can he mash up his country by telling investors don't come? And listen, investors are out there and they want to come, but a man who is aspiring to lead again is saying the climate is not good, so don't come, but only come when I'm there.
Yeah.
And then you have a situation where he says, if he's leader again, he must be chief secretary. So he has said so.
But do you think that Mr.
No, let me
Duke
just
can gather the type of support to allow for this to even be a realistic expectation?
Well, this is the point. You can't want to be chief secretary. You want to be leader. You took your party and you went, and you were saying, when peace comes, in parentheses, when peace comes, I must be chief secretary. So what you want to do is to upset the entire applicant, reorganize the political infrastructure or architecture, so to speak. So then Farley would be removed, Faith would be removed, and then a whole reorganizing of the executive. That is more traumatic than anything else.
I have a question. Did Mr. Duke really take his party, or did he take his logo, his Facebook page, and all the other assets connected to the party? Because it seemed like all the people that really contributed to the party actually having a party structure are gone. So what indeed did Mr. Duke take?
If you put me out of your house, implicitly what you have done is to say this belongs to me. Please remove yourselves. So you have impliedly or implicitly taken what you claim belongs to you legally.
Right.
And therefore, if you have a penchant for doing those kinds of things, how would the population be in such a place where we could say, this is a good man, this is a good leader? Now, why in the first place you wanted those things to be in your name? And your name only.
Right. And it goes back to the 2016-2017 time frame in the Tobago political space. The argument emanating from Mr. Duke is that
he didn't have time?
During that time, all he had was his bamboo bullifay under a street light, and he walked and he gathered the support from Farley Augustine, and he took Dr. Faith B. in Israel under his wings, and he brought them into the political arena. And with that start, he got PDP to where it is today. And he's saying that all the fanfare and the extraness and the constitution and the executive is not necessary to gather the kind of support that he knows that Tobagonians can throw behind him. How do you respond to something like that?
I'll be a bit rough for Mr. Duke at this time. If you look back at Labour history, the people who would have succeeded were the intellectuals, for example, and the academics, because they understood how to frame their argument. Somebody might have an idea, but if you don't have intellectuals and academics around you to frame that idea and make it into something, then your idea would be damned from the outset because it can't go any further. That is what happened in the case of Mr. Duke. So the whole party that evolved wasn't because that he had the intellectual capacity. I don't believe he has the intellectual capacity to run anything. I sincerely don't believe that. I told a particular secretary, I won't call the secretary's name, I said he parades himself as having a master's degree in labor law or something like that. All right? I said, I don't think he wrote that paper. I'm not hearing something from the intellect.
Right.
I'm not hearing the language. I'm not hearing even the correctness of grammar. I'm of the view that wherever he says he has, and I'm telling Tobago, don't believe one thing that man says.
But we want to focus on Tobago people's ability to retain confidence in Mr. Duke, regardless of what his academic qualifications have been. Mr. Duke undeniably has the ability to get people riled up. He has the ability to mobilize. And that is something that we cannot deny. The man has
I
a
take
certain level of charisma that just works for a certain group.
I take a dissenting view. And here is why I take a dissenting view. Tobago, after the NRA lost in 2001, we have had several permutations of the people who didn't support the PNM. And they would not have succeeded. Eventually, Duke came along, and he wasn't aligned to any of those different permutations of persons that didn't support the PNM. So he was able, at that time, because of that socio-political need for leadership and new ideas, a whole new vehicle was formed, and people rallied around him. It is not that people necessarily liked him. People necessarily liked his gab and the way he speaks and all of that. People, if you truly on the ground, you would hear people say, I ain't trust him, but I give him the chance. And only because Farley and James and Brebner and the rest of them are there. So let us get it right. Duke did not win on his own strength, as he's making it out for us to believe. He won squarely and because of the persons who were around him, and not because of his own ideas and his charisma. He really has no charisma. It's the same thing happens in PSA. People were dissatisfied with Jennifer Batiste and all of them. And he came along. So he came along at just the correct time when people needed a certain kind of politics that were different to what the PNM has been offering. And there was significant areas of what I call chickenry, because you had PSA elections and you had membership issues and all of that. Significant opposition. And then there was a feature in the PSA rules that once elections are not held by a certain time, the president continues. And he has used that particular technique or tactic or weakness in the rules to stay in office. That's how he stayed in office. People really didn't want him. So let's correct it. And I'm correcting it now. Mr. Duke, you won because of that, not because of any charisma. But that's the truth. So if you notice his political meetings, they're becoming fewer and fewer and fewer people who are attending them. And they're coming only for the food.
Wow.
Nobody wants to listen to the young man. It is clear. It is really clear. Because what is he driven by? To achieve political office when you are stabbing your own people
and that was going to be my final question, Mr. James, which is similar to the question that I asked Dr. Raghunath. Do you think that Mr. Duke is operating out of his passion for Tobago people to progress and the need for Tobago's self-autonomy? Because, I mean, let's just be real. It seems as though Mr. Duke, even while he was the Deputy Chief Secretary, had totally abandoned the mandate to push for Tobago self-governance. Now he's talking more of a collaborative effort between Trinidad and Tobago, one which is indeed necessary to attain Tobago self-governance. However, it seems as if the tune has changed.
Mr. Duke is like foul tail. Wherever the wind blows, the foul tail is going to go. Do you see the people he has around him? Even a member of his executive has resigned. The gentleman from Goldsboro, Goodwood. He says, I can't take this. And you're going to see the fragmentation increasing and increasing.
Yes, and one of the questions that I would have liked to ask Mr. Duke when he was supposed to be here tomorrow was of that re-election of his executive. It did not seem to be very transparent at all. You know, what type of internal election was held to re-elect this new executive? Usually when a party has internal election, the membership is able to vote for a new executive. Am I wrong?
He handpicks people and believes people who he has some sway over. And it's a charade of an election, a charade of proper structures and the pathway in reaching and accomplishing certain structures. And therefore, again, now that he has his own chance, where he is king, and king of all that he surveys, You're seeing evidence that he's doing it the wrong way. So people are not going to pander to him. People are not going to trust him. He's
and
not to
before
be
you
trusted.
go, is this in the best interest of Tobago or in the
I
best
think
interest
so.
of Mr.
For those
Duke
of us
for
who
the
have,
reconciliation to
for
happen?
those of who have done management, there's something called the chaos theory. And out of the chaos, you get the real thing. People, you see how people have settled, you see what their propensities are, and you see what their thinking is, and so on. So what Farley and et al., as we say in academic language, have to do is to, as Aristotle says, it is more difficult to organize a peace than to win a war. And therefore, I think that what they have to do quite quickly, in my opinion, they're taking a little bit long. However, I think that they need to organize and reorganize so that if there's any inkling of what Mr. Duke is trying to do to Tobago, that there's some distancing of investors, we need to remove that, if there is any. I don't see it happening as yet, and there's no evidence so far, but if it is there somewhere outside there, they need to reorganize and organize themselves so that the fruits of victory will be lost, but the fruits of victory will be lost if the peace isn't organized. So right now it's about organizing the peace for Tobago by putting in place the political structures and the political architecture, the political party, where people can say, listen, we have reached, we're going to do these things for Tobago, it will happen, and we're going to keep it for the sake of Tobago so that Tobago can breathe again. Because now that we have, I think, you'll always have some issues with people who don't like what the leader does or what each other would do. But the idea is to coalesce and coalesce politically, socially, and I think Tobago is going to come out victorious out of all of this that has happened.
Excellent. I really wish that we had more time, Mr. James. It's always an interesting conversation when we're here together. But we have to move along, this morning. Interesting points, extremely interesting. One interesting point that you raised is you see peace as being the establishment of a new party and not necessarily the reconciliation with Mr. Duke. Interesting points there.
Yeah, I don't think that Tobago will trust Farley. I certainly wouldn't be part of anything that Mr. Duke is in.
Okay.
I think if Mr. Farley and others are going to even think about it, Mr. Duke has said it plainly. If I'm leader again, or if you all come back where I'm leader, I will be chief secretary.
Right.
I don't, Mr. Duke doesn't have the academic qualifications. Somebody wrote his paper.
Right.
Mr. Duke does not have
Thank
anything
you, Mr. James.
to run this
Thank
country.
you so much.
To run this country.
We appreciate you
I don't
coming
want
on
that,
every time.
as I would not be part of it.
Thank you so much. And guys, we're going to head over to a little bit of what's happening in the book club space when we return right after the break. Thank you.
Good morning, Tobago. Na 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 na. Wake up with Candace and Denasia. Let's go,
Hey, scary. Yeah, boom. Jesus Christ, mother walk. Look at people behavior. Yeah, we getting on bad, we up in your area. Yeah, when you see we coming, you know it's danger. Yeah, we better than you and all of your neighbor. Yeah, and we no afraid nothing. We no afraid, we no afraid, we no afraid nothing. We no afraid, we no afraid, we no afraid nothing. Cause we no afraid, we no afraid.
Socialize! Friday, 27th of January, Shore Park Complex.
Don't worry, lover. Don't worry, friend. Don't worry, partner. Socialize is yeah. Don't worry, lover. Don't worry, friend. Don't worry, partner. Tobago.
Socialize! Friday, 27th of January, Shore Park Complex.
It's so much man good day. Socialize.
Socialize!
Glass, boy,
socialize.
Tell them, look for where. 27th of January, look for where.
MI4 Security Services Company is the most advanced security service in Tobago. Ask about our cash and transit service. It's safe, risk-free, reliable, and timely. We provide safe banking delivery for all business types and sizes with highly trained staff, 24/7 monitoring, coordinated emergency response, and a well-maintained fleet of armored vehicles. Contact us at 660-7723 or visit our website at www.mi4securitytt.com to sign up today.
It's a different type of thing down there. What? And we party till we drop down there. Right. With a lot of pretty girls down there. Down in Tobago.
Tobago Glass Supplies has been a leading name for over 37 years in the glass and aluminum market in Tobago. We provide an extensive range of high-quality, innovative aluminum and glass products for commercial and residential use. Competitive prices with superior and professional services by committed employees who are guided by rigid quality standards. Tobago Glass Supplies specializes in the manufacture and installation of glass and aluminum products that are essential to today's homeowners and the business environment. We are engaged in marketing, sales, and installation of a variety of products. These ranges from windows and doors to necessities such as mirrors for homes and vehicles, designed and manufactured in-house or imported.
Like myself and many others in the Tobago space, but is it hard for you to really keep up with your reading goals? Are you one of those persons who have books that you have bought that you have not been able to reach the end of and have really desired maybe some accountability partners to hold you to it? Or have you read books that you found to be extremely interesting, yet you really had no one that you felt like you could have had dialogue with about some of the contents in those books? Well, today we are talking a bit about the Tobago Book Club. And this morning I have the pleasure of having on with me this morning Dr. Ariel Batiste Martini. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. And welcome to Good Morning Tobago.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I hear you very well. And so we're talking about the Tobago Book Club. And many persons like myself love to read books. But there's some of us who love the physical book. We love the touch and the feel of going cover to cover. But yet our hectic schedules don't always allow us to get through it. Some of us with now, technology has really reduced our attention span. And even though we start books that we love and are interested in for self-development or just for entertainment, it's often difficult for us to get to the end. But to combat that, there are book clubs that exist, where you have accountability partners that hold you to it. And as I also said in the introduction, sometimes you just want somebody to, express that juicy storyline with, who can really relate. So tell us a bit about how the Tobago Book Club came about.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. I started the book club in 2018 in January is when we first started to kind of read together as a group. And that was the main purpose of it. I love reading. I'm an avid reader. I always have been an avid reader. But I wanted people around me who also enjoyed reading that I could share, you know, the stories that I was enjoying with, that they could share their stories with me and the books that they were enjoying with myself, and that we could hold each other accountable because even though I love reading and I am an avid reader, sometimes I will start a series and I just wouldn't finish it, or I might start a book, but then I pick up another book and I don't finish it. And anybody who has been in book club with me will tell you that is true. So I need that accountability. I need people around me who will keep me focused on what I'm doing. You made a really great point there around technology and distractions. And that's another really good benefit of being in a book club is that you sit down, you know, you have book club meeting at the end of the month. So you want to make sure that you read the book so that you could sit down for an hour or 2 hours with people and talk about that story. So it helps to keep you focused on what you're doing.
And we know that reading really keeps the mind sharp. And you are a psychologist. So tell us, how does reading really fit into the whole philosophy of increasing one's mental health?
Oh, absolutely. So there is a whole field now of psychology called bibliotherapy, which is basically about the mental health benefits of books and of reading. But even before that, we always knew that, you know, reading increases our empathy for ourselves, for other people as well, because we get to read about the lives of other people, whether it's fictional or non-fictional, and the experiences that they're having, and it helps to build our empathy. It also helps us to feel less alone. Sometimes we are going through things and then we think we're the only ones. But then when you read it, you read about a character in a book who has been through something similar, again, whether it's a real story or it's a fictional story. You can feel seen in that character. You can identify parts of yourself in that character. So you feel less alone. We also know cognitively, just for your brain's own health, it's good to read. It keeps our cognitive flexibility well. It helps our neural connections and pathways to stay sharp. It's one of the preventative things in terms of diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia. So we know that there are huge benefits, not just in terms of our emotional mental health, but also just in terms of our physical brain health as well.
Excellent. And what about book drives? Because, you know, persons like myself, after we finish reading some of our faves, now I like to put it on the shelf because for some reason I just like how it looks. You know, when people come over and they ask, what have you read? What are you interested in? It's a part of my display. It's a part of the conversation starter when people come to my home. But when we talk about sustainability, we talk about being able to exchange books with other persons. Tell us about what you guys have been doing in that area.
Yeah, so we've had a number of book drives actually over the years, and I think recently, a couple months ago, at the end of 2022, there was a book drive as well that was put on by the Tobago Book Club. So what we do is we gather, you know, used books from our members, from friends of our members, from family members, and we offer those books to the public at a much reduced price, right? Sometimes a dollar for a book, $2 for a book, whatever it may be. And it's a way of kind of regifting the joy of reading. You know, if you had a book you really enjoyed and you want to share it with others, that's a good way to do it. But it's also a way of increasing accessibility to reading materials. A lot of the times we hear, oh, you know, people don't like to read, young people don't like to read. And a lot of the times it's because of accessibility issues, right? They don't have access to books that pique their interest that they may enjoy, right? And so having book drives is a good way to improve that accessibility to reading materials that people may not necessarily have. It's also a good way to promote reading as part of a group because, you know, you're there, you're in person, you could ask members of the club, how do I join? How do I sign up? I'm looking for a reading buddy. What is the process for me to be able to join the group?
And we know that reading not only impacts our ability to write or increase our vocabulary, but it also increases our public speaking ability as well. And so we want to encourage parents to get their kids more interested in reading. And you would hear them say, well, you know, we can't get them off the tablet. She don't want to read, he don't want to read, they don't want that. What kind of strategies should parents use to get their kids more interested in reading?
Yeah, well, as a psychologist that works with children, one of the things that I always say, and we say it all the time back home as well, we know this as a people, children will do as you do and not necessarily as you say, right? So the best way to get your child interested in reading is for you yourself to become interested in reading. If you read, and if you read to your child and your child sees you reading, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be the newspaper, it could be a magazine, it could be whatever you're interested in. They are much more likely to want to engage in that habit as well, right? So the best way to get your child interested in reading is for you yourself to become a reader. The other thing is that, you know, we have technology. Sorry, can you hear me all right?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, the other thing is that we have technology around us, right? Parents complain about like the iPad and these things. And the reality is that that is the norm for this generation. They are accustomed having this access to technology at their fingertips. So we have to learn as parents how to use that to our advantage, right? There are ebooks, there are audiobooks, there are library apps that we can download that our kids can have access to books on their devices, right? So we don't want to be in a war with technology. We want to try and figure out how can we use technology to our advantage. I am a big advocate of you know, we have to learn how to roll with the times, right? So technology is part of this generation's reality. So we have to use that to our advantage in terms of getting our kids more interested in reading.
And you know, there's a saying that the best way to travel is to read, because reading allows you to be in one place and, you know, mentally travel to another. In order to have individuals have this experience, how can persons join the Tobago Book Club?
Yeah, well, we have a Facebook page that you can access us there. We also have a WhatsApp. I don't know if we have the number for the WhatsApp. We could probably put it at the bottom of the screen. That's probably the quickest way to get onto us.
What is the WhatsApp number?
Oh, hold on one second, and I will tell you exactly what that number is. So the WhatsApp number is oh my goodness,
So you said that we can meet you on Facebook and Instagram?
And Instagram as well, that's right. I'm just trying to find the WhatsApp number
And
here.
what is the age group of the current membership?
So the age group, so originally when the book club was formed, the age group was it was an adult book club, so it was 18 and up. Now that may have changed over the last couple of years. So I'm sure if we could get in contact with Jewel, who's the head of the book club at the moment, she would be able to better see kind of what the age group is.
Okay. And so do you have a contact number outside of Instagram and Facebook that we can call?
Yeah, so
so the name is the Tobago Book Club on Facebook, right?
That's it, the Tobago Book Club, that's right. So what I will do is I will give you there we go.
And most people are on social media, so it's really easy to access you through there. So do you guys have virtual Zoom meetings, or are you meeting in person?
So at the moment we're meeting in person. Obviously during COVID, it was online, but at the moment I think in-person meetings have resumed. So you know, a lot of people kind of prefer that, obviously, because you can meet up with people, you can have, you know, your snacks, you can have kind of meet up after you discuss the book. So a lot of people prefer that. I'm just trying to find the WhatsApp number here for you.
All right, Dr. Martini, unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for this morning. But I hope that we will be able to discuss more about the book club and hopefully see you having one of those in-person book drives this year, because a number of us have a number of books that we need some storage for, and it may be in better use in someone else's home. So again, thank you so much for joining us on Tobago Updates. And guys, remember, you can join the Tobago Book Club by going to Tobago Book Club on Facebook or on Instagram, and there you will see the contact information. Reach out, be a part. Do what it takes to keep your mind sharp. And if you are not able to travel at this time, the best way to travel is to read a book. All right, so thank you guys so much for joining us this morning. Again, a number of interesting conversations, interesting developments here in the political space on the island of Tobago. I mean, when is it going to end, this whole debacle between the PDP leader Watson Duke and the current administration? Tobago is ready for it to just be put to bed. Are we going to see a reconciliation happening? We hear persons calling for reconciliation, while we hear other persons saying, if they do reconcile, I want no part of this Farley administration. What are we going to see? Is Watson Duke trying to utilize his negotiation tactics by calling for a meeting with Mr. Augustine by himself? We don't know. But as the story unfolds, I bet you I'm going to be here to ask the questions that you want to know. Guys, have a great day, and thank you for staying tuned to us here on Tobago Updates, the #1 for the conversations that you want to hear. Guys, enjoy the rest of your day. I am Chanel Felix, and it's always a pleasure to sit in this seat. Guys, see you next time.